Okay, some people have asked, how can you believe in a recent worldwide flood? Fair question, especially the way things are taught nowadays. Well, first off, most of the ancient cultures around the world have a flood story. In fact, there's about 500 different accounts that have been collected. If it's true, shouldn't the evidence be pretty obvious? After actually traveling through and looking at the world I live in, I think the evidence is overwhelming. Here's what I've found. First off, there's sheer cliffs everywhere, every coastline, the walls of most canyons, and, more surprisingly, they are pretty much the same even in the middle of the continents. Why is that? 2. Major rock and soil debris should be found at the base of every cliff, in every valley, at the base of all the mountains, in all the lakes, and along all the riverbeds. If the earth is so old, why don't we see it? 3. Deep erosion scars should be found everywhere, yet I don't see many. Where are they? 4. Why do we still have soft hoodoos in Bryce? Why do we have arches in Arches Park? There are many sensitive spires found all over the world, and yet they shouldn't be there because rainwater erosion alone should have worn these away long ago. 5. Alluvial fans in Death Valley and elsewhere throughout the world should be much larger, especially if it's been long periods of time. 6. Most all the hills at the base of every mountain range would have either worn away by now, or they should have been covered from the erosion and the debris from the mountains themselves. Why aren't they? 7. Mountains like the Himalayas and Andes shouldn't still have seashells on the top of them. If the raising of the mountains took place 50 million years ago, as the story goes, rainwater alone would have worn away all those top layers a long time ago. We shouldn't see any seashells on the tops of the mountains. 8. If all these magnificent waterfalls found all over the world have been running for so long, wouldn't you think their cuts would be deeper? Yet, take some time and look. They all lack the deep cuts we'd expect from the erosion of long periods of time. They look like they've only been running for a very short time. 9. Most islands all over the world would be long gone, or at least erosion scars from just the rainwater alone would be far more dramatic. The fact they have sheer cliffs so close to the shoreline with very little erosion and deposition demonstrates these islands also are very young. 10. Both the surf structures and points that jet out to sea along the many coastlines all over the world are direct evidence of a major flood scenario. Incoming surf and rising seas don't erode like this. We'd expect these structures, and especially the points, to be left behind as the massive amounts of water were rapidly retreating from the continents. 11. Everywhere the geological column is exposed, it's so obvious there is no erosion between the layers. This only happens from the rapid laying down of the layers. If there was any time in between the laying down of the layers, there would be obvious erosion scars and V-cuts would be everywhere. And yet, we see virtually none.
We have these incredible layers, some of them thinner than a dime.
12. Dead plants and animals are buried all over the world, on every continent, and there are massive grave sites where it's obvious the waters themselves collected. That would be from a flood. 13. Fossils are in the wrong places. Many fossils have been found out of order, like birds in the Permian, Triassic and Jurassic layers. Land dinosaurs are found buried, encrusted in shells and oysters. I still have my 1992 Smithsonian magazine that clearly shows bear tracks in the Permian. That's way out of order. There are many examples of man tracks in the older sediments, and yet all these and many other examples are either suppressed, ignored, called problematic, or contested because this observable evidence simply doesn't fit a theory some go to all lengths to protect. There, I've given you 13 observations you can easily back up by researching themselves. I encourage you to take a serious look at the real world around you, because if any part of the surface of this world was old, even just 1 million years old, it wouldn't look the way it does. Just rainfall alone would have worn, softened, flattened, or at least rounded all these amazing structures long ago. The problem is, the past scientific paradigm misleads the world into believing the processes happening all around us are long and slow. I can tell you with absolute certainty they are not, and everything is happening much faster than you've been told by your scientific, academic, political, and all the different communities that benefit monetarily from these dogma-driven 1800s ideas. They're not only outdated, it's scientifically incorrect, and it's misleading us into wasting trillions of dollars on many programs that in the end will not benefit us. What I presented here is what you can actually go out and see going on all around us. It's exactly what we'd expect if the flood was both worldwide and within the last 5,000 years. Just remember, if any one area of the globe was older than another, you'd have a drastic difference in the shape of the cliffs. Old cliffs would be worn and nowhere near vertical, and yet no matter where we go, they're almost exactly the same. The only difference is in the amount of rainwater an area gets. What I don't understand is how the scientific community can look at these features and say it's been millions of years. Because even at 1 million years, just from rainwater erosion alone, you would have massive erosion on every cliff, every hill, all mountains, all the islands, all the waterfalls, everywhere, throughout the entire world. It's not there. So please, get out there and check it out yourself. Then I invite you to come back and share your own observable science and findings on this most fascinating subject. Thank you.
Same amount of erosion at the top as we see at the bottom, which demonstrates that they had to be done at the same time. Otherwise, this valley would be littered with rocks.